At a billionaire's engagement party, a feverish 5-year-old steps into the light, looks up at a stranger, and whispers, "Daddy," the music dies. Glasses freeze. A mother runs. A family secret cracks open, forcing love, truth, and mercy to collide in one unforgettable moment that changes everything they thought they knew. The alarm rang at 5:30 a.m., sharp and unforgiving, slicing through the thin silence of the small house at the edge of Hawthorne Hollow. Lena Hart opened her eyes instantly. No snooze, no hesitation. Her body already knew today mattered. She sat up slowly, the cold floor biting her bare feet, and glanced at the clock like it might judge her. Today was the engagement celebration at the estate, the biggest event of the season. The kind of day that could decide whether you stayed invisible or disappeared completely. Before she even dressed, Lena crossed the narrow hallway and pushed open the bedroom door. "Mia," she whispered. The little girl lay curled beneath a faded blanket, cheeks flushed, lashes damp with sleep. Mia Hart, 5 years old, stirred weakly and opened her eyes. "Mommy." Her voice was small, unsteady. Lena pressed the back of her hand to Mia's forehead. Too warm, not burning, but wrong. Her chest tightened. "I don't feel good," Mia murmured, trying to sit up and failing. She frowned, confused by her own weakness. Lena scooped her gently into her arms, holding her like she might shatter. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, forcing calm into every word. "Mommy's here." Mia rested her head against Lena's shoulder, breathing shallow and tired. After a moment, she looked up, eyes wide with the kind of trust that breaks adults. "Am I being brave, right?" The question landed like a quiet punch. Lena swallowed hard and kissed her daughter's hair. "You're the bravest person I know." She didn't say what she was thinking, didn't say that bravery was about to be tested, didn't say that today, of all days, the world would not wait. She held Mia a second longer than usual, memorizing the weight of her, the warmth, the soft rise and fall of her chest. Outside, dawn crept in slowly. Inside, Lena already felt the clock running. The thermometer beeped softly. 100.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Not an emergency, but not nothing. Lena set the thermometer aside and reached for her phone, fingers already trembling. She dialed the sitter's number, pacing the narrow kitchen as the call rang. Once, twice, 4 times. Finally, a groggy voice answered. "I'm so sorry, Lena," the sitter said, coughing lightly. "I woke up sick. I don't think I can even stand today." Lena closed her eyes. "That's okay," she replied automatically, even though it wasn't. "Feel better." She ended the call and stood there, phone hanging uselessly at her side. There was no one else. No family, no backup, no emergency contact to hand her daughter to so she could go earn the money that kept the lights on. For one reckless second, Lena thought about calling the estate, about asking for understanding. The thought vanished just as fast. She pictured raised brows, polite smiles, the unspoken words, "You should have planned better." At Hawthorne Hollow, mistakes didn't belong to staff. Mia padded into the kitchen, wrapped in her blanket like a cape too heavy for her shoulders. "Mommy," she said softly. "Are we staying home?" Lena knelt in front of her, heart splitting cleanly in two. "I have to work today," she admitted. "But I won't leave you alone, never." Mia nodded, trusting without question. "Okay," she said. "I can help," Lena smiled sadly. "How so?" Mia straightened, serious. "I can be quiet, like a mouse." Lena pulled her into a hug, breathing in the familiar scent of soap and warmth. "You're not a secret," she whispered into her daughter's hair. "You're my whole life." The plan formed slowly. Risky, temporary, not cruel, just desperate. She stood up, decision made. "All right," Lena said gently. "We're going on a small adventure." Mia's eyes brightened just a little. "Am I being brave, right?" she asked again. Lena nodded, even as fear pressed hard against her ribs. "Yes," she said. "You are." Steam filled the bathroom as warm water poured into the tub. Lena knelt beside it, rolling up her sleeves, checking the temperature twice before guiding Mia in. The little girl sighed softly as the warmth wrapped around her. "That feels nice," Mia murmured. "It helps," Lena said, washing her hair with careful hands. "We're helping your body fight." After the bath came medicine, applesauce, and a sweater folded neatly into a small bag. Lena packed water crackers, a coloring book with half its pages already filled. Every movement was efficient, practiced, like someone who didn't have the luxury of falling apart. At the door, Lena crouched again and met Mia's eyes. "Listen to me, okay?" she said, keeping her voice light. "Today we're playing a special game." Mia tilted her head. "What game?" "Library mode," Lena replied. "That means whisper voices only, very important." Mia smiled, proud to be trusted. "I'm good at whispering." "I know," Lena said, brushing hair from her face. "And I'll check on you all the time. You won't be alone." They stepped outside into the cool morning air. The estate loomed in the distance, all stone and windows and quiet wealth waking up slowly. As they walked, Mia held Lena's hand tightly. "Mommy?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart." Mia hesitated. "Is Daddy there?" Lena's steps faltered for just a heartbeat. "We'll talk later," she said gently. "Right now, just stay with me." Mia nodded, accepting the answer without understanding it. They reached the service entrance just as the sky turned pale gold. Lena took one last breath before opening the door, one hand steady on the handle, the other wrapped protectively around her daughter's. Whatever happened next, she would face it standing. Together. The service entrance of Hawthorne Hollow Estate opened with a quiet click. Warm light spilled out, golden and steady, as if the building itself had already decided that today would be perfect. Lena stepped inside, instinctively lowering her voice, though no one was there yet. The polished stone floor reflected chandeliers still dimmed for morning, their crystal arms waiting to shine. Everything here was measured, intentional beauty, designed not to be questioned. Mia's eyes widened. "Wow," she whispered, remembering the rules. "It's like a castle." Lena smiled faintly, only from the front. They moved quickly through staff corridors, past doors marked pantry cold storage supplies. Lena chose a small linen room just off the kitchen, clean, quiet, used only for folded tablecloths and spare trays. No locks, no darkness. A narrow window let in pale morning light. "This is our spot," Lena said softly. She laid a folded blanket on a low bench, set Mia's water within reach, and placed the coloring book beside her. "Library mode," Lena reminded. Mia pressed a finger to her lips. "Shh." Lena crouched and checked her daughter's forehead again, still warm but stable. "I'll be right outside," she promised. "I'll come back every few minutes." Mia nodded, brave and serious. "I won't move." Lena hesitated, then added gently, "If you need me, just call my name, softly." Mia smiled. Like this, she whispered, barely sound at all. Lena's throat tightened. Exactly like that. She stood, smoothing her apron, and paused at the door. For a split second, she imagined what it would look like if anyone saw this scene out of context. The fear pricked at her skin, then she pushed it away. She was not doing anything wrong. She was protecting her child. As Lena stepped into the kitchen, the first staff members began to arrive. Voices, footsteps, the clatter of preparation. The estate was waking up. Behind her, in a quiet corner of a grand house, a 5-year-old girl opened her coloring book and began to draw, unaware that the day was already leaning toward something far bigger than either of them had planned. By 8 o'clock, the kitchen was alive. Ovens hummed. Knives struck rhythm against cutting boards. Trays lined the stainless counters like soldiers waiting for orders. Lena moved through it all with practiced precision, tying her apron tighter. Her posture calm even as her mind split itself in two, half here, half counting the seconds since she'd last checked on Mia. "Good morning," a sharp, polished voice said behind her. Lena turned. Vivian Prescott stood near the doorway, immaculate in a tailored cream suit that looked out of place among steam and steel. Her hair was flawless. Her smile was not. "Good morning, Miss Prescott," Lena replied evenly. Vivian's gaze swept the kitchen, taking in every detail. She tapped her nails lightly against her phone. "Today is very important," Vivian said, her tone pleasant but firm. 200 guests. Press, donors, everything must be seamless. "Yes," Lena said. "It will be." Vivian's eyes lingered on Lena's face as if searching for cracks. "No surprises," Vivian added. "No delays. No distractions." Lena met her gaze without flinching. "Of course." For a moment, Vivian smiled wider, then turned and left her heels clicking like punctuation marks. Lena exhaled slowly. "Is she always like that?" whispered a server nearby. "Only when it matters," Lena murmured back. She checked the clock. 10 minutes. Too long. Lena grabbed a tray of herbs and excuse and slipped into the linen room. Mia looked up instantly, relief washing over her face. "Mommy," she whispered, "I'm still being brave." Lena knelt, brushing hair from her daughter's forehead. "You're doing amazing. Can I have water?" "Of course." As Mia drank, Lena noticed the color returning slightly to her cheeks. Hope flickered. "I'll be back soon," Lena said. "Promise." Mia nodded. "I won't tell anyone." Lena kissed her forehead and stood. As she turned back to the kitchen, she didn't see the thoughtful eyes watching her from the hallway. Margot Hawthorne entered the kitchen without ceremony. No entourage, no raised voice, just presence. Conversations softened instantly. "Good morning," Margot said warmly, her eyes moving from station to station. "It smells wonderful already." "Good morning, Mrs. Hawthorne," came the respectful chorus. Her gaze landed on Lena. "Lena," Margot said, smiling. "I was hoping you'd be in charge today." "I am," Lena replied. "Everything's on schedule." "I'm sure it is," Margot said easily. "You always make miracles look ordinary." The compliment should have felt good. Instead, it made Lena's stomach twist. Margot studied her more closely now, not critically, carefully. "You seem tense," Margot observed gently. "Are you all right?" Lena hesitated, then chose the safest truth. "It's a big day," she said. "I want it to be perfect." By late morning, Hawthorne Hollow no longer felt like a house. It felt like a machine. Servers glided through hallways with practiced smiles. Florists adjusted arrangements worth more than Lena's monthly rent. Somewhere upstairs, musicians rehearsed softly the notes, drifting down like something expensive and untouchable. In the kitchen, Lena moved with sharp precision, her body doing what it had done hundreds of times before seasoned taste adjust, while her mind stayed fixed on one quiet room just beyond the steel doors. She checked the clock. 20 minutes. Too long. "Lena, we need the appetizer trays ready in 10, called Javier the sous chef." "I've got it," she replied, already plating. Her hands didn't shake. Her face didn't change. Only her heart raced faster. She grabbed a tray of folded napkins, another excuse, and slipped back into the linen room. Mia looked up immediately. Her coloring book lay open on her lap, a crayon clutched loosely in her fingers. A crooked drawing of a house filled the page. Above it, a small stick figure stood alone. "Mommy," Mia whispered, relieved. "I didn't move." "I know," Lena said softly, kneeling. "I'm proud of you." Mia leaned into her. Lena noticed the change right away. The heaviness in her daughter's body, the way her breathing had slowed, but deepened. "You tired?" Lena asked. Mia nodded. "A little." Lena pressed her lips together and offered water, holding the cup steady. "Just sip," she murmured, slow. Mia obeyed, then rested her head against Lena's arm. "Mommy," she whispered again. "Yes," Mia hesitated. "Is it okay if I miss Daddy?" The question cut cleanly. Lena's hand stilled. "You can miss anyone you want," she said carefully. "Missing someone doesn't mean you did something wrong." Mia thought about that. then nodded satisfied. I'll be back soon, Lena promised, smoothing her hair. I won't be far. As she stood to leave, Mia reached out and caught her apron. Am I still being brave? She asked. Lena smiled even as something inside her cracked. Yes, she said. Always. She stepped back into the kitchen just as the first guests began to arrive. By noon, the estate shimmered. Sunlight poured through tall windows, catching on crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors. Guests arrived in waves, laughter-perfumed tailored suits, dresses that whispered when they moved. From the kitchen, Lena could hear it all. The clink of glasses, the murmur of admiration, the sound of a world where nothing ever went wrong. First round of canapés in 5, Javier announced. Lena nodded, placing the final garnish with care. Her eyes flicked once to the linen room door. Too quiet. She excused herself again, this time carrying a small plate. Mia sat upright now, her back against the wall. Her face was pale eyes, shiny with fatigue. I brought you something, Lena whispered. Mia smiled weakly. You remembered. Always. As Mia nibbled, her gaze drifted toward the faint music seeping through the walls. Mommy, she said softly, is there a party? Yes, Lena answered. Can I see it? Mia asked, not demanding, just curious. Lena shook her head gently. Not today. Mia nodded, accepting the answer too easily. She looked down at her hands. It sounds pretty. It is, Lena said, though her voice wavered. Mia grew quiet again, then asked, Is Daddy at the party? Lena's breath caught. She chose her words with care. Someone who looks like him is. Mia's eyes widened just a little. Like the picture, Lena didn't answer. She stood quickly, brushing invisible crumbs from her apron. I'll be back soon, she said. I promise. Back in the kitchen, the pace accelerated. Trays moved faster. Voices sharpened. The engagement announcement was scheduled for later in the afternoon. Lena felt the pressure closing in. She checked the clock again. Too much time had passed. As she turned toward the linen room once more, someone brushed past her, an unfamiliar guest who had wandered too close to the service corridor. Sorry, he said distractedly. The door behind him didn't close all the way. Lena didn't notice. Inside the linen room, Mia stood slowly, gripping the edge of the bench. The music sounded closer now, brighter. And for the first time that day, she felt very, very small. Mia didn't mean to wander far. She only meant to peek. The door had been opened just a crack, and the sound, the music, the voices pulled at her like something familiar she'd forgotten how to name. She took one careful step, then another. The hallway opened into light. Mia froze. The ballroom stretched before her, vast and glowing. Chandeliers hung like constellations above heads crowned with silk and jewels. Everything sparkled. Everything moved. She clutched her sweater tighter around herself. No one noticed her at first. She was too small, too quiet. Then someone did. A woman paused mid-sentence. A man frowned. Heads turned, not cruelly, not sharply, just confused. A child didn't belong here. Mia looked around, panic flickering, but not fear. Confusion. Mommy, she whispered, barely audible. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on the front of the hall. A man stood there, tall and calm, dressed in navy, laughing softly as he spoke to the woman beside him. Something in his face made Mia's chest ache. She knew that face. She had seen it in a photograph folded carefully inside a small box at home. The one Mommy never talked about. Her heart leapt, not fast, but sure. Mia took a step forward, then another. The room seemed to hush as she crossed the polished floor, her small shoes echoing softly. She stopped in front of him. The man looked down, surprised, but his expression softened instantly when he saw her. Mia lifted her chin, eyes shining. Daddy, she asked quietly. The word didn't echo. It didn't need to. It landed like thunder. Across the room, Lena stepped through the ballroom doors and saw her daughter standing alone beneath the chandeliers, looking up at a man who had just gone completely still. Her heart stopped. Time held its breath. The word didn't echo. It didn't need to. Daddy. The ballroom seemed to inhale all at once and forget how to breathe. Caleb Hawthorne looked down at the little girl standing in front of him, her small hands curled nervously into the sleeves of her sweater. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to her wide eyes and the fragile hope shining in them. He didn't pull away. He didn't laugh. He didn't panic. He knelt. Slowly, carefully, as if any sudden movement might frighten her. "Hey there," Caleb said softly, his voice steady despite the storm racing behind his eyes. "What's your name, Mia?" she replied, barely above a whisper. "That's a beautiful name," he said. "Are you lost?" Mia shook her head. "I found you." A ripple of murmurs spread across the room. Glasses hovered mid-air. Conversations died unfinished. Behind Caleb, Vivian Prescott stiffened, her smile frozen in place. "Mia," Caleb repeated gently. "Who are you here with?" Mia turned, searching the crowd. Her gaze darted toward the doors and stopped. Across the ballroom, Lena Hart stood pale and unmoving, as if her body had forgotten how to function. Their eyes met. Relief flooded Mia's face. "Mommy," she whispered. Caleb followed her gaze. The moment he saw Lena, something shifted. Recognition not of her face, but of a feeling. A memory without a clear shape. Lena forced herself to move. She crossed the room quickly, but not wildly. Her steps were controlled, her expression apologetic and protective all at once. "I'm so sorry," she said to Caleb, to Vivian, to the stunned guests. "She's not feeling well." She wandered off. Mia reached out and caught Caleb's hand again. "You look like him," she said simply. Caleb swallowed. "Like who, sweetheart?" Mia hesitated, then answered with quiet certainty. "The man Mommy misses." The silence deepened. Lena closed her eyes. Before anyone could react, before Vivian could speak, another voice cut through the tension. "Ladies and gentlemen," Margot Hawthorne said calmly, stepping forward, "please continue enjoying the afternoon. This is a private family matter." Her tone brooked no argument. Servers moved smoothly, guiding guests back toward champagne and conversation. The orchestra resumed softer now. Margot turned to Caleb, then to Lena. "Upstairs," she said gently. "All of you." Caleb nodded. Still kneeling, he looked at Mia. "Would you like to sit for a moment?" he asked. "We can go somewhere quiet." Mia nodded, trusting him without knowing why. As Caleb lifted her carefully into his arms, Lena felt her knees weaken. The word "daddy" still hung in the air, unspoken now, but impossible to take back. The office upstairs was warm and quiet, far removed from the glitter below. Margot closed the door with deliberate calm. Only then did the silence crack. "What is going on?" Vivian demanded, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Caleb, this is insane." Caleb didn't answer her. He set Mia gently on the sofa, kneeling again to meet her eye level. "Are you feeling all right?" he asked. "You look tired." Mia nodded. "I had medicine." "That's good," he said. "Do you want some water?" She nodded again. Caleb poured a glass, testing the temperature before handing it to her. Lena watched, heart pounding, not with fear now, but something else. Something fragile. Margot turned to Lena. "Sit," she said kindly but firmly, "and tell us the truth." Lena's hands shook as she lowered herself into a chair. Vivian crossed her arms. "This better be a very good explanation." Lena swallowed. "My daughter is 5, she began. She's sick today. I had no one to care for her. I never meant for her to be seen. That doesn't explain why she called Caleb." Vivian started. "Vivian," Margot said sharply. The room stilled. Lena took a breath. "She called him Daddy because—" Lena's voice wavered, then steadied. "Because he looks exactly like her father." Caleb's head snapped up. Margot's breath caught. Vivian laughed once, brittle and incredulous. That's absurd. Lena reached into her bag and pulled out a small cloth pouch. Her fingers trembled as she opened it and revealed a delicate butterfly pendant worn smooth by time. He gave me this, Lena said softly, before he died. Caleb felt the room tilt. Margot stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the pendant. Whose, she asked. Lena met her gaze. Declan Hawthorne's. The name fell like a stone. Caleb staggered back, sinking into a chair. My brother is dead, Vivian snapped. You can't, he didn't know, Lena said quickly. He never knew about Mia. He died before I could tell him. Mia looked between the adults' confusion, knitting her brow. Uncle, she whispered, turning to Caleb. The word broke something open. Caleb knelt in front of her, eyes shining. Yes, he said hoarsely. I think I am. Margot pressed a hand to her mouth, tears finally spilling over. Outside, the party continued. Inside, a family was shattering and forming at the same time. Margot was the first to move. She crossed the room and knelt beside Mia, her expression softening instantly. Sweetheart, she said gently. Are you warm? Mia nodded. A little. Margot straightened her voice, calm but decisive. Caleb, called Dr. Reynolds. Now, Vivian scoffed. During our engagement party, Margot turned, her eyes steel beneath silk. A child comes before champagne. Caleb was already dialing. Within minutes, a cool cloth was placed against Mia's forehead. Lena hovered, guilt and gratitude warring inside her. I'm so sorry, Lena whispered. I never wanted this. Margot shook her head. You wanted to protect your child. That is never wrong. Vivian paced. This is humiliating. Do you realize what people will say? Caleb stood slowly facing her. They'll say we took care of a sick child, he replied. If they say anything else, they're not worth listening to. Vivian stared at him, stunned. Mia tugged gently at Lena's sleeve. Mommy, yes, baby. Did I do something bad? Lena knelt instantly, pulling her close. No, she said firmly. You did nothing wrong. You were brave. Caleb knelt beside them. You didn't cause trouble, he said softly to Mia. You helped us find something important. Mia blinked. I did, yes. Margot said, smiling through tears. You did. The doctor arrived shortly after, calm and professional. He examined Mia carefully. Just the flu, he said. Rest fluids and she'll be fine. Relief washed through the room. Vivian's face hardened further, not at the diagnosis, but at what she was losing. As the doctor left, Margot turned to Lena. You and Mia will stay here tonight, she said, in the guest wing, where she can rest properly. Lena shook her head instinctively. Mrs. Hawthorne, I can't. You can, Margot said gently. And you will. Mia yawned, her head resting against Lena's shoulder. Caleb watched them, his expression unreadable, but something in his chest had already shifted. The truth had arrived quietly, and nothing would ever return to the way it was before. Margot nodded, accepting the answer, but not fully convinced. Well, she said, placing a hand briefly on Lena's arm, remember that perfection doesn't come from pressure. It comes from care. She moved on, leaving Lena rooted in place. Care. The word echoed. As Margot exited, she glanced back once, just once, toward the linen room door that Lena had disappeared through earlier. Something about the morning felt off. Margot didn't know what it was yet, but she had learned long ago to trust that feeling. In the kitchen, Lena forced herself to breathe, refocused on the task in front of her. She didn't know it yet, but someone had begun to see past the polished surface, and that more than Vivian's sharp warnings was what made her hands shake. The guest wing at Hawthorne Hollow didn't feel like a room. It felt like a different universe. Soft lighting, heavy curtains, a quilt folded with the kind of care that suggested no one here ever ran out of time. Lena laid Mia on the bed as if she were setting down something sacred. Mia's cheeks were still warm, but her eyes had softened with exhaustion, The doctor's calm words lingered in the air like a blanket flu rest hydration. She'll be fine. Lena should have felt relief. Instead, the relief came with trembling. Because now the danger wasn't Mia's fever. It was the truth. Caleb stood near the doorway, hands loosely at his sides like a man who didn't know where to put himself. He wasn't wearing a mask of authority anymore, just a quiet kind of shock that looked too human for a ballroom. Margot entered behind him, already composed again. Her emotions tucked away the way wealthy families learn to tuck away storms. Water, Margot said to a housekeeper who appeared instantly. Warm tea for Lena, cool cloths for Mia. And please no one speaks of this in the corridors. Not a whisper. Yes, Mrs. Hawthorne. The door closed, and for a moment it was just the three of them. Lena's throat burned. I'm sorry, she said again, because it was the only sentence her body seemed capable of producing. Margot sat in the armchair beside the bed. Stop apologizing for being a mother, she said gently. Apologize only if you ever stop being one. Lena's eyes stung. Caleb looked at Mia, then at Lena. She said I look like him, he murmured. Like Declan. Lena nodded, slow and careful. You do? Caleb swallowed. She's never met me. She's never been here. How did she? She's seen pictures, Lena said quietly. On accident, over the years, a photo in a box, a face she couldn't name. But she never forgot. Mia shifted, a small sigh escaping her. Lena smoothed her hair instinctively. Caleb flinched at how natural that motion was, as if he had been missing this softness his whole life, and only now noticed the emptiness where it should have been. Downstairs, laughter rose and fell like waves. The party was still alive. Margot's voice went cool with practicality. I will return to the guests. I'll tell them there was a family medical matter. Nothing more. Caleb's gaze snapped to her. Mom, Margot held up a hand. The house will not be a circus because a child needed care. Not today. Not ever. She stood, smoothing her jacket. Lena, you will stay with Mia. You will not step foot in that kitchen again tonight. Lena started to protest. Habit, fear, the trained reflex of staff. Mrs. Hawthorne, Margot's eyes softened. You are not a machine, and you are not alone. A beat of silence. Then Margot turned to Caleb. And you, she said, will stop staring at them like you're afraid of your own heart. Caleb exhaled, almost a laugh without humor. I don't know what to do. Margot's answer was immediate. You do what your brother would have done. You protect them. Her words landed simple and heavy. Margot stepped toward the door, then paused, glancing back at Mia, asleep in the center of the room, like a fragile truth no one could deny. Declan would have wanted her safe, Margot said, voice barely above a whisper. And he would have wanted you to be brave enough to love her. When she left, the room felt larger. Caleb remained near the doorway, unsure whether he was allowed to be here. Lena watched him quietly. You don't have to stay, she said, voice low. This is a lot. Caleb shook his head once. I want to, he said. I just don't know if I have the right. Lena looked down at Mia, then back up at him. You have the right, she said softly, if you can be kind. Caleb's eyes flickered with something sharp and bright. I can do that, he said. I can do that easily. Lena's shoulders sagged, the first true exhale in hours escaping her chest. Mia stirred, half asleep. Her hand reached blindly, searching for Lena. Caleb moved before he thought, stepping closer, keeping his distance but offering a small, careful presence. Mia's eyes opened to slits. She looked at Caleb's face, unfocused, then whispered the question that had haunted the day, am I being brave, right? Lena's voice broke. Yes, baby. Caleb's voice joined hers, quiet and steady. Yes, Mia, you are. And for the first time all day, Lena believed the room might hold them without shattering, Later, when Mia fell into a deeper sleep, breathing slow fever easing under a cool cloth, Lena sat by the window with untouched tea cooling in her hands. Caleb remained across the room, seated like someone waiting for permission to exist inside a truth he hadn't earned yet. Outside, the estate glowed with late afternoon light. Inside, Lena finally spoke. "It started in the kitchen," she said, voice quiet. "Like everything in my life." Caleb's eyes lifted. "I was new here," Lena continued. 24, I couldn't even afford the knives I wanted. I borrowed everything. I worked every shift I could get because when you're poor, sleep is the first thing you learn to live without. Caleb didn't interrupt. He didn't ask for proof. He just listened. "Declan came in one night," Lena said. "Not dressed like a hawthorn. No arrogance, no entourage. Just a man who looked tired of being watched." Her fingers tightened around the cup. "He asked for bread," she said, almost smiling. "Not the fancy kind, just warm bread. Like he wanted something real." Caleb's throat worked. He liked simple things, he murmured half to himself. Lena nodded. "He talked to me like I mattered. That was the first thing that scared me, because when someone treats you like you're human, you start wanting more than survival." A soft pause. "I didn't chase him," Lena said quickly, as if defending herself before she could be accused. "I didn't ask for anything. He kept showing up. Late nights, quiet conversations. We'd sit on the back steps and talk about nothing and everything." Caleb's voice was strained. "Why didn't he tell us?" Lena looked down at her hands. "Because your world had rules," she said. "And he was tired of rules." She swallowed. "He said he didn't want to live like he was trapped inside a name. He wanted something he chose. He wanted Lena's breath caught. He wanted a family that felt like love, not like obligation." Caleb stared at the floor, shaken by how familiar it sounded, as if the confession didn't just belong to Declan. Lena continued, gentler now. "When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. Not because I didn't want the baby, because I didn't know if the world would let her exist peacefully." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Declan didn't run," Lena whispered. "He didn't hesitate. He held my hands and said, 'Then we build something smaller, something safer, something ours.'" She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper worn at the creases. "I never showed anyone this," she said. Caleb didn't reach for it. He waited. Lena unfolded it carefully. It was not a grand plan, just a sketch. A tiny building by water, 2 chairs, a window, a name written in Declan's handwriting, Hart and Hawthorne. Lena's eyes glistened. "He wanted to open a small place," she said. "A restaurant. Nothing fancy. He said I'd run the kitchen. He'd handle everything else. He said he wanted to wake up every day and feel like he'd earned his life." Caleb's voice cracked. "He never told me." "I think he meant to," Lena replied. "But time doesn't ask for permission." She didn't describe the accident. She didn't need to. "It was enough to say he was gone," Lena whispered. "And I was left holding a future that no longer had a door." Caleb closed his eyes, shoulders rising and falling with one steady breath. Lena's voice dropped lower. "After he died, I came back here because it was the only work I could find. And because I thought, if I stayed quiet, Mia could grow without being pulled apart by rumor or suspicion." Caleb looked up. "You thought we'd take her?" Lena's expression was raw. "I didn't know what you'd do," she admitted. "I only knew what the world does to women like me when they speak." Silence pressed down. Then Caleb stood and crossed the room, slowly stopping at a respectful distance. "You shouldn't have had to be afraid," he said. Lena gave a bitter little smile. "Yet I was." Caleb nodded once, as if making a decision inside his own ribs. "I can't change the past," he said. "But I can change what happens now." Lena searched his face for the kind of cruelty she'd learned to expect. She didn't find it. In the bed behind them, Mia sighed softly in her sleep, safe, held, protected by the quiet gravity of truth. Evening settled over Hawthorne Hollow like velvet. Downstairs, Margot moved through the ballroom with a smile polished enough to hold back disaster. She made her announcement with grace. A small family health matter arose. All is well. Thank you for your understanding. The guests accepted it. They always did. Wealth taught people to look away at the right moments. But Vivian Prescott did not look away. She stood near the bar, posture, perfect eyes, sharp phone hidden in her palm like a second heartbeat. When Caleb didn't return to her side, she approached Margot with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "This is becoming embarrassing," Vivian said, voice low. "People will talk." Margot's expression remained serene. "Let them." Vivian's jaw tightened. "Caleb and I deserve privacy, too." Margot's gaze held hers, steady, measuring. "Privacy is earned through character, Vivian." The words were polite. The warning beneath them was not. Vivian's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, then returned brighter than before. "Of course," she said sweetly. "I'll just check on him." Margot didn't stop her. She didn't need to. Because as Vivian turned away, Margot's instincts finally arranged their scattered clues into a shape she couldn't ignore. The secret calls, the sudden agitation, the way Vivian watched the estate like a ledger instead of a home. Margot excused herself and walked not to the guest wing, but to her private study. She opened a drawer, took out a number she hadn't called in years, and dialed. "Charles," she said, when the voice answered. "It's Margot Hawthorne. I need a discreet favor. Something financial." She listened, eyes narrowing. "Yes," she said. "Tonight." Upstairs, Caleb returned to the guest wing with a careful tray soup, crackers, a small bowl of fruit. Nothing dramatic, just nourishment. He paused in the doorway as if knocking might break the fragile peace inside. Lena looked up. Her eyes were tired, older than 29. Caleb set the tray down quietly. "I had the chef make something gentle," he said. "For when she wakes." Lena's throat tightened. "Thank you." Caleb hesitated, then said the thing that mattered. "I didn't come here to ask you to prove anything." Lena's gaze flickered. "You didn't," Caleb shook his head. "I watched her in that ballroom," he said softly. "She didn't act like a child trained to manipulate. She acted like a child who believed she'd finally found the missing piece of her world." He glanced toward Mia. "And I watched you run toward her," he added. "Not toward me. Not toward the crowd. Toward her." Lena's eyes dropped to the floor. "That's all the proof I needed," Caleb finished. A silence followed, different from the earlier silence. Softer. Less like judgment, more like room to breathe. Mia stirred, eyes fluttering open. She blinked around the room, confused at first, then relaxed as she saw Lena beside her. "Mommy," she whispered. "I'm here." Mia's gaze slid to Caleb. She studied him with sleepy seriousness. "Uncle?" she asked. Caleb knelt. "Yeah," he said, voice thick. "Uncle." Mia's brow furrowed. "Do you know Daddy?" Caleb swallowed. "I knew him," he said gently. "He loved you, even before he met you." Mia's eyes softened, not fully understanding but feeling the warmth in his words. She reached out a small hand. Caleb hesitated only a second before taking it carefully, like it might be holy. Mia's fingers were warm and tiny in his. "Am I being brave?" she whispered. Caleb's voice broke just slightly, only enough to be human. "Yes," he said. "And you made the whole house brave, too." Downstairs, Margot's phone buzzed. She listened to the information on the line, and her expression changed, not to anger, but to certainty. When she ended the call, she looked toward the staircase, toward the guest wing above, toward the child who had unknowingly walked into the light and changed everything. Margot whispered to herself, "All right." Then she stood, straightened her shoulders, and made a promise in the quiet of her study. No one would use that child. No one would shame that mother. Not in her house, and not under her name. Vivian didn't knock. She never had, not really, not with doors, not with people. She reached the guest wing hallway with the kind of quiet confidence that came from years of believing the world would make space for her. When she saw Caleb outside the room, her shoulders relaxed into a smile that looked practiced in mirrors. "There you are," she said softly. "I've been looking everywhere." Caleb stepped out and pulled the door mostly closed behind him, not locking it, just creating a respectful barrier. "Mia's resting," he said. Vivian's eyes flicked to the door, then back to him, and Lena Caleb didn't answer that. Vivian exhaled as if she were the patient one. "Caleb, darling, we need to be smart about this." "Smart," he repeated. "Yes." Her voice stayed sweet. "You know how people talk. A scandal at our engagement party, press donors, the board, your mother's reputation, your future." Caleb stared at her. "A child getting sick is not a scandal." Vivian's smile tightened. "That's not what I mean." "You know exactly what I mean." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This woman shows up with a child who calls us family. And suddenly everything shifts. If you let this spin out of control, it'll define you." Caleb's jaw flexed. "It's already defining me." Vivian blinked. "Excuse me." "It's showing me what matters," he said quietly. "And what doesn't." Vivian's eyes sharpened. "Caleb, you're engaged to me." Caleb nodded once slow. "I was," he said, "and right now I'm focused on Mia." Vivian's pleasant tone cracked. "You don't even know if she's telling the truth." Caleb's voice stayed calm, but something colder entered it. "My mother is handling the facts. I'm handling the human part." Vivian stared at him like she'd never seen him before. Behind the door, a small cough sounded soft, sleepy. Caleb's head turned immediately, instinctively attentive. Vivian noticed. Her lips pressed together. "You're choosing them," she whispered. Caleb didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult her. He simply said, "I'm choosing kindness. If that feels like betrayal to you, maybe we're not the same people." Vivian's eyes flashed, then smoothed over again, mask restored. "Fine," she said quietly. "Be noble." She stepped back, heels silent on carpet, and turned away with a smile that didn't belong to her face. Caleb stayed by the door, one hand resting lightly on the frame, like a guard at the edge of something fragile and new. Margot climbed the attic stairs alone. The house was quieter now, the party below fading into polite afterglow. Up here, the air smelled like cedar and time-old trunks, old fabrics, old memories, folded into corners. She didn't come looking for drama. She came looking for truth. In the far back, behind a stack of holiday decorations, she found a plain shoebox with one word written across the lid in familiar handwriting. Declan. Margot's hands trembled as she lifted it, not from weakness, from the sudden weight of what it might hold. She carried it to the small attic window and sat on an old bench, opening the lid slowly, as if rushing would be disrespect. Inside, letters, photographs, a small notebook, a folded sketch. Margot picked up the first letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. Her son's, the son she'd lost before he ever grew into the man he wanted to be. "My dearest Lena." Margot's breath caught. She read in silence, eyes moving line by line while her heart pulled tighter with each word. Declan wrote about late nights and stolen laughter, about how Lena's quiet strength made him feel brave. He wrote about wanting to leave the polished cage of legacy and build something simple, something chosen. Then Margot found the page dated only weeks before the accident. A single sentence sat in the middle like a confession carved into paper. "If you ever meet my daughter, please love her before you judge Lena." Margot pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears came fast, not loud, just steady, unstoppable, the kind that belonged to grief that had waited too long for permission. She found the sketch next. A tiny restaurant by water, 2 chairs, a window, and a name written beneath it, Heart and Hawthorne. Margot stared at it until her vision blurred. All this time she thought she'd known her son. All this time she hadn't even known his dream. She closed the box carefully, holding it against her chest, like a living thing. And for the first time since Declan died, Margot whispered into the attic air voice, trembling with love and regret. I'm here. I'm listening. When Margot entered the guest wing carrying the shoebox, Caleb looked up instantly. He rose eyes, questioning. Mom Margot didn't answer right away. She walked past him and into the room where Lena sat beside Mia's bed, gently smoothing her daughter's hair. Lena stiffened the moment she saw the box, as if she recognized it by the weight of it alone. Margot set it on the table without ceremony. I found this, she said softly. Lena's eyes filled immediately. I didn't want to use it, she whispered. I wasn't trying to, I know. Margot interrupted, voice gentle but firm. That's why I believe you. Caleb stepped closer, gaze locked on the box. Is it? His Margot nodded once. Caleb didn't open it. He didn't reach for it like evidence. He simply stood there breathing shallowly, as if the box contained not papers, but a heartbeat. Margot looked at Lena. Her expression held no accusation, only something older than pride. He loved you, Margot said, and he wanted you safe. Lena covered her mouth, tears slipping through her fingers. I loved him, she managed. I still do. Margot nodded, eyes shining. Then we will not make you pay for loving my son. She turned slightly, addressing both Lena and Caleb like a vow. Here is what happens next, she said. Mia rests here as long as she needs. Lena, you remain her mother. No one questions that, no one threatens that. Caleb, you may choose how you show up in Mia's life, but you will show up with decency. Caleb's voice broke. I want to. Margot's gaze softened. Good. Mia stirred, blinking awake. She looked around and found Lena first, then Caleb, then Margot. Her voice was sleepy, small. Am I still brave? Lena leaned down and kissed her forehead. Yes, baby. Caleb knelt beside the bed, careful and quiet. Yes, he whispered. And you're safe. Mia's eyelids fluttered. Her fingers reached out again, finding Caleb's hand like it belonged there. Margot watched the tiny hand holding the grown one and felt something inside her settle into place. The house had chosen. Not gossip, not appearances, family. And in that quiet room, with one child breathing softly under a warm quilt, the future began, gentle, lawful, and full of hope. The morning after the party arrived quietly. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, softer now, as if the estate itself had exhaled. The echoes of music were gone. In their place, space, honesty, consequences. Vivian Prescott stood in the main sitting room with her coat already on. Her posture was perfect. Her expression was not. Caleb faced her across the room, calm in a way that surprised even himself. This isn't about last night, Vivian said tightly. It's about what you're throwing away. Caleb shook his head once. No, it's about what I'm choosing. Vivian laughed, sharp and hollow. You're choosing chaos, I'm choosing truth, he replied. Margot entered, then carrying a slim folder. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The engagement will be dissolved, Margot said evenly. Our legal team will handle the details. Any financial matters related to the Prescott family will be resolved lawfully and without drama. Vivian's eyes flashed. You can't do this. Margot met her gaze. I already have. Silence followed. Heavy. Final. Vivian looked at Caleb one last time, searching for hesitation. She didn't find it. With a tight nod, she turned and walked out, heels clicking once, twice, then fading. The door closed. Margot looked at her son. Are you all right? Caleb thought of a small hand in his, of a voice asking if she was brave. I will be, he said, because now I know what matters. Margot smiled not triumphantly, but with relief. The house had let go of something brittle, and in doing so, it made room for something real. A year changed everything. The guest wing became a home. Laughter replaced whispers. The kitchen smelled like warmth instead of fear. Mia Hart, now 6, ran through the garden with a paper crown sliding down her hair, her laugh bright and unguarded. Lena watched from the porch, sunlight on her face, finally unafraid of being seen. Caleb knelt near the old oak tree, tying a ribbon to a low branch. Uncle Caleb, Mia called. You missed one, he smiled. I was saving it for the best spot. Margot stood nearby, hands folded, eyes shining. She'd learned how to sit on the grass, how to listen to stories about school, how to let grief turn into care. Life wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Mia ran to Lena, breathless. Mommy, look, Grandma made the cake look like the house. Lena laughed softly. She did, didn't she? Mia leaned in, whispering something only her mother could hear. Lena's smile trembled but held. Caleb approached, holding a small gift. For you, he said to Mia. She opened it carefully, a tiny framed drawing. A simple restaurant by water. 2 chairs, a window. Who's that? Mia asked, pointing to a stick figure near the door. Caleb crouched. That's your dad. He's part of every good thing here. Mia nodded, thoughtful. Then she smiled. I think he'd like it. Caleb swallowed. I think so too. Above them, the oak tree rustled softly, as if agreeing. Evening settled, golden and slow. 5 candles flickered atop the cake, their light reflected in Mia's eyes, as everyone gathered close, Lena, Caleb, Margot, friends who had become family. Make a wish, someone said. Mia closed her eyes. She thought hard. Then she whispered, barely audible, I wish Daddy can see me. A breeze passed through the garden. The candles went out together. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Margot stepped closer, kneeling beside her granddaughter. Sweetheart, she said gently, he already does. Mia looked up. He does, yes, Margot said, through you. Mia smiled, content, peaceful. No ache, no confusion, just love. Lena felt tears slip free, quiet and unashamed. Caleb placed a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding her without claiming her. They stood there, watching Mia laugh as cake was served, watching a future unfold that had once seemed impossible. No secrets, no fear. Just a child who had been brave, and a house that learned how to be kind. As the last light faded from the sky, Hawthorne Hollow felt different than it ever had before. Not richer, but fuller. And for the first time, Lena knew without doubt that tomorrow would not ask her to hide. It would ask her to live. Did this story leave a lasting impression on you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, rate it from 1 to 10, and tap the end screen to see another heartwarming story waiting for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then tap the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Until our next story.